You're listening to the Fitzrock Podcast, interviews where we explore the shifts and transitions of life. Here are your hosts, Keith Rock and Don Fitzsimmons. Today's guest is the author of 2 books which promote anti-discrimination and anti-bullying. His first book, Junga the Dancing Yeti, and his second book, Junga the Dancing Yeti Meets Heidi, both focus on these 2 passions. He's also a motivational speaker who shares with children how he was bullied as a child and uses those experiences to fuel his writing work and his passion to inspire. He has been the host of the Los Angeles Movie Awards, the NYLA International Film Festival, and the Los Angeles Cinema Festival of Hollywood since 2010. He is a member of SAG-AFTRA, and we are so pleased to have him with us today. Welcome, Stephan Tako. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. It's a pleasure. I always enjoy speaking to motivational people who have dedicated part of their lives to be able to enrich other people's lives. So I'm glad to be on your show.
Stephan, thank you so much for being on our podcast. We're very excited to have you on. You want to share with us like some of your journey and how you've gotten to the place you're at now?
Sure, absolutely. As was mentioned in the bio part, the introduction, I did suffer from being bullied a lot when I was younger, and I don't go through my life, it's just thinking, oh, poor me, this victim, these terrible things happened to me as a child. But it is part of my past, and I've decided that rather than just forget about it and think, oh, well, kids do bad, dumb things. I thought, what can I possibly do to give back to help other kids who are currently going through what I went through when I was younger? And I'm pretty fortunate that I had at least one parent that I could rely on that was able to help me out. But my mom left our family when I was in 9th grade. And so then it was just me and my father, and I had a bad relationship with him. I had some siblings, but they were moving out as fast as they could. And I was the youngest, and I was the last one left at home. And I really struggled with my relationship with my dad and with the bullying that I was getting at school. So when I was 21 years old, I finally decided that I would forgive all those people. I would forgive the kids that picked on me. I would forgive my dad, and I would forgive myself for letting all of this happen. And it really wasn't until, maybe the mid-90s when a friend was starting up a magazine, and I was telling him about this really sad story of something that happened to me in 3rd grade called I wrote this story called Be My Valentine, Please. And he asked me to write that for his magazine. That was the first introduction into really delving into the things that I suffered as a child. And I had to relive all of it. To get all the details out into that story, I had to relive the pain and the embarrassment that I went through this one particular Valentine's Day. That kind of sparked some interest in my writing. But it wasn't until 2011 that I started writing my first book. Actually, it was called Motivated to Act, and that was published in 2012. That book really was what thrust me into the whole anti-bullying movement. The publisher that I was working with at that time, she goes, Stephan, I love what you're writing. The first chapter was called The Damaged Child. I dealt with some of the things that happened to me. And she goes, you had us going, but I need more specifics. I need details. Let me know about cyberbullying. But I was like, I never dealt with cyberbullying when I was younger. She said, it doesn't matter. This is something that is a usable tool. And so that's when I started doing all kinds of research into what's going on with bullying these days. and seeing the statistics, and it opened up my eyes to see how much bullying was still going on, and that kids are committing suicide, and kids are miserable, and parents are clueless sometimes as to what's going on, if their child is the victim or the bully. And so I just decided that I would make it my point to help out in any way that I could. And because I'm a really good writer, I figured that my books were a good way to go. And I was on a movie shoot where I played a Yeti, and that is an abominable snowman. And so I played a Yeti in a film called Abominable, and that was in 2011. And when we were all done filming, they gave me the costume because they had to custom make it for me. I'm almost 6'7". And so I had this character, and later on in 2011, I wrote a story called The Dancing Yeti Takes a Trip. And it was about this Yeti, the Yeti that I played in this other film, but I was looking at that Yeti as when it was a child and how it was discriminated against when it went on a trip with his grandmother. So anyway, long story short, too late. I ended up taking that whole idea, the concept of this Yeti character that I just happened to win the role and be on this movie for it, and my writing and my desire to help children overcome bullying. And that's how the Junga the Dancing Yeti series came together. Writing the story was great. I pretty much finished the final version of the first Junga book in 2014. But then to find an illustrator, that was a whole new ball of wax. So I went through 5 different illustrators before I can find one that could really capture and create the characters to look the way that they do right now. And so that book was published in 2018. And then 2020, the end of 2020, is when the second book, Junga book, was published. And so it's been an exciting journey, and we've got other fun projects that we're working on as well with this character. We've got a nonprofit organization that we're starting. We have one video that's done. It's a video with professional voiceover actors for the first book. And I just did a national casting to cast for the second video that we'll be doing. The first one received 2 nominations, and for the Voice Arts Awards, which is quite prestigious. And now we're delving into getting the next video up and running pretty soon.
What was it like for you when it was a publisher, I think, who came back and said, you need to delve more into the details?
It was an eye-opener. I should have done that myself. And that's the nice thing about being in a team where you have other people that can look at your work. A lot of people who go out and do their own books, they write their own books and they self-publish. There's nothing wrong with that, but it takes sometimes a real professional to look at it and read it and edit it and be able to come up and say, hey, this is great. Let's make it even better. And so I took it as a challenge, like, hey, that makes sense. I want this book to be useful. I want to learn more. If I'm going to be hired as a motivational speaker and talk about anti-bullying, I need to know this information. So it's good for me, and it's good to put in the book.
When I was in school, I also was bullied, and school just became a painful place. I started to say, as luck would have it, as fortune would have it, whatever, my career was as a school social worker. So I remember the first time stepping in the halls of the high school where I worked, and all of those feelings came rushing back, and it was very painful. I wondered if that was a similar experience for you, or if you had already worked through all of that.
I can't say that it was painful. I did go back. My elementary school is still standing. They don't use it as an elementary school anymore. I grew up in a small farming community in Ohio. The building itself is well over 100 years old. But I did look through the window, and I actually took some pictures, and I remember like these staircases, and I remember seeing this one area, and in my head, I could actually still see somebody knocking my lunchbox out of my hand and picking up my thermos and hearing all the glass broken inside my Hot Rod's lunchbox. And and while these things happen to me, I decide that it's part of my history. But I've been on the high school reunion committee. So, and there's people that have been coming to the reunions and people that are sitting in the reunion committee that really weren't all that nice to me in school. And I've just decided, look, I'm going to be the bigger man of this, and I'm just going to not let things bother me. And I'm sure that some people probably looked at me and they're like, who's he think he is? He was a nobody in school, right? Now all of a sudden he thinks that he can, kind of call the shots on how the reunion's going to be. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm just going to do whatever I can. I'm going to volunteer my time and help out. And I know, some of them still live in the small community that we all grew up in, and that's fine. And I know that some of them look at me as like, wow, this guy who was like a nobody in school, and now he's worked on these major films and, and TV shows. And, not like I've had a big acting career, but I did get on some pretty awesome sets. And that's something that I will cherish for the rest of my life, to work on Oz the Great and Powerful, where we filmed in the same soundstage that Judy Garland filmed in. And I was standing on some original piece of the Yellow Brick Road. I mean, that was pretty amazing. So a small kid, little kid from, well, not little, 6'7", but, from a small farming community in Ohio to being in Los Angeles and doing some pretty cool things. And now to have these books out, I'm proud of the work that I've done. And when I go back, I feel kind of humbled, that I had the very humble beginnings, and I don't look down on anybody else. I'm just happy that I could participate. And when they look at me, if they still see this loser kid that was, didn't have, pimply and braces and a beam pole, anything else, they called me, my last name is Tako. They called me Taco, Too Tall Tako, whatever. And it's all fun and games, and we're all adults now, and we have kids, and we have jobs, and we have everything else. And so the pain really is not there. The pain is gone for me.
Something that strikes me is a lot of people that deal with bullying, part of what they lose is their voice. The voice becomes restricted because they're being bullied and they feel like they have to go inward. So what strikes me when you talk is you went from a problematic voice of any kind to like this motivational speaker that's creating these amazing books and been on these TV shows. How does that feel?
It feels nice when you think of, what is my purpose here on earth? Am I here to serve myself? Or am I here to serve other people, serve a higher power? If I'm leaving the place a better world than what I had to face myself, if I can touch and help other people, touch their lives and improve their lives, it's a really good feeling. And if I have to open up a wound a little bit to share with other people, a lot of people, like you said, the voice has been silenced, and sometimes it's permanently silenced when they just can't take it anymore and they snap and they hurt themselves. And so there are many people, unfortunately, that still in adulthood are consistently silenced and are still playing the victim role. They still really have never been able to figure out how to get past being stepped on, being the floor mat, being the one that is so nice and so helpful, and people take advantage of them. And it's unfortunate that many people go through their life in a circle where they keep being taken advantage of. And then finally, and then they don't recognize when a really good opportunity comes their way, because they've been burned so many times that they don't recognize the good opportunity, and they push even the good opportunities aside because they're just so used to always being let down. And that's truly unfortunate.
you go in schools and speak to kids, is that right?
Yes. Now with the pandemic, I haven't been in any schools for a while, but just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a virtual presentation to 2 schools in New York. And so I talked to a group of kindergarten to third graders. So that was one presentation, and then fourth and fifth graders. And they wanted me to talk about what it was like to be a published author and the hurdles that I had to overcome in order to get to the point where I was a published author, and how I came up with Junga the Dancing Yeti and what it's all about. And then why did I tie in anti-bullying? So it's important for children. First of all, there's a little bit of a wow factor when they get a chance to meet somebody who's done something that's significant, whether it's be in a movie or be in a published author or be a sports celebrity. So there's that wow factor. But the real important part is, okay, so you think that I'm cool and that's nice. Now I got your attention. Now let me go ahead and sprinkle in the real reason why I'm here. And that's to motivate you, and that's to encourage you, that's to help you realize that it's important to show empathy. So I love talking to schools. It's more enjoyable when I can do it face to face, because then I could make my eye contact. And that's another thing that I learned at Toastmasters. It's so important to make proper eye contact, and it helps, because you can really bring the message home, and you can hone in on a particular person, and everybody feels connected. With the internet, there's a certain level of disconnect, and I can see some of the pictures of some of the kids who were at home, and I don't know if they even knew that I could see them or not. But it is something that I enjoy doing. And in fact, on my website, jungayeti.com, there's an actual link in there for when anybody wants a speaker. If they want me, or if they want me to find somebody for them, they can click on that speaker link, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions that they have and speak at their school.
What message would you have for parents who are struggling with, if they have a child, say they come home and say that they're being bullied, how would you help parents help that child? Any ideas?
Yes. Well, one thing is, because I'm not a therapist, and I have to be careful that when I give advice to somebody, I have to put that disclaimer out there. And I am a huge proponent in parents talking to teachers, talking to any type of resources that are available at the school. One thing that I would suggest that parents don't do is don't rush to move your child away from the school. My belief is, let's try to fix the problem instead of running away from it. And if a child is being bullied at a particular school, it's important to try to find out what the reasoning, why is this happening? Because if you don't fix what's happening, if you can't figure out what's happening, it could be that the child who's being bullied can do something about it themselves, can somehow learn how to defend themselves, learn how to have a higher self-esteem. When a child has a high self-esteem, it's a lot harder for them to be bullied. When they are the target, when they're the easy target, that's where kids, they want to go after the easy target. They want to pick the low-hanging fruit. And if your child is being bullied, it could be that because they're so easily bullied, that let's see if we can find out a way that we can lessen the ease of them being bullied. How can we improve their self-confidence? Because if you just pull them away and you move them to another school district, what have they learned? They've learned that I can run away from my problems, but you haven't fixed maybe what's actually going on with that child, and you're just bringing them to a new place. It's like a abusive wife leaves her husband and immediately goes to another abusive husband because she really didn't take the time to fix why is she attracting this type of man into her life. And so I implore parents to reach out to the school, see what they can do. Maybe there's just a really, really terrible bully that's at the school that is ruining it for not just their child, but ruining childhood for other kids. And it needs to be brought to light. There needs to be addressed. That child needs to learn the ramifications of what they're doing, and that when the child is a bully, it is a problem that the parents of that bully often are not involved, and the parents of the bully sometimes encourage it because they feel that they're superior than other children. They want their child to feel that they're superior than other children. And sometimes it's the coach at the school. It's an athletic thing. The coach prides themselves on their star quarterback of being the big bully at school as well. And they want the rumors to go out for other schools to be nervous of this kid. Whatever the reason is. But to answer your question, you definitely have the parent try to increase the child's self-esteem by complimenting them, by figuring out ways that they can improve and help them, but also to work with the school and see what can be done. And sometimes it's being part of the PTA, getting involved rather than just talking about it. What can we actually do to increase our awareness of what's going on and expose some of the bullies that are ruining school for other kids? And how can we help those bullies? Not just get rid of the bullies, but how can we help the bullies? And that's what Junga the Dancing Yeti meets Heidi. That's what they do in that book. They actually help the bully in that book, and it transforms the life of that bully.
Hey, Stephan, entertain us with some of the shows you've been on, the TV shows, the movies. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I actually got into the Screen Actors Guild by playing a teacher on the show Glee. So that was pretty exciting. Some people were like, "Oh, wow, I love that show. Where can I see you?" And it's like, there are so many aspects of acting, and sometimes we end up on the big screen, or in the TV screen, and sometimes we're on the cutting floor. And I enjoyed being an actor on that show. I enjoyed seeing how everything was working. And then the fact that I got into the Screen Actors Guild by being on that show was pretty cool. And then also, one of the episodes was a Christmas episode in season 2 where they had Chewbacca. They actually flew in the official costume. They had a Lucasfilms representative there and an actor that was in the costume of Chewbacca. And because I'm so tall, and then they already knew me from being a teacher, they asked me to be a stand-in for Chewbacca. So I got my picture taken with him as well. And then they gave us a special tour behind the scenes, and I just got to hang out with the guy that was playing Chewbacca. So that was cool. That was really nice. Gangster Squad was also a very cool movie. I know I mentioned to you Oz the Great and Powerful. I played one of the Wicked Witch's guards. And again, that was a very cool set. And just the fact that we were in that soundstage that Judy Garland was in, it's in Culver City. It's now Sony Studios, but it was the old MGM, but it was the same building. And the makeup on that was awesome. In fact, I use in my online presentation that I did to the schools in New York, I sprinkle in some of the pictures of me in costume and the makeup that they put us in. The official role is called a Winky. And the Winkies are those tall guards with the big long hat and the big heavy overcoat, and so the kids enjoy seeing all the pictures, and it keeps their interest. Gangster Squad was a 1940s movie, and that was in 2011 that I filmed that one, and I played a money handler to Sean Penn's character, Mickey Cohen. and that was based on a true story of the crime scenes that were happening in Los Angeles back in like the 40s. And that was very neat to be on that film. I worked on that for about 8 days, and we were all in these authentic 1940s costumes. They paid us to get a 1940s hairstyle as well. So every day we were in costume. And the weirdest thing about being on a period set is at the end of the day, when you see everybody back in their regular clothes and getting into their cars and driving home. Because I mean, when I get into a role, I'm in that role. I'm in that time period. And all of a sudden it was like, after all those days of being in the time, and all of a sudden to see everybody in their regular clothes again, I don't know, there's something bizarre about it. But that's one of the things I love about acting, is when you can transport yourself into some other time and place. So those were the coolest things. And then there was actually I've been on a Hallmark movie called Snow Bride. And I actually get recognized more from that because it plays every Christmas. It came out in 2013. It's really a cute movie, Snow Bride, but I'm in the wedding scene. So it's not like a big role or anything, but a couple of times there's a nice big center close of me dancing with somebody else. And every year that comes out, and somebody will send a message to me on Facebook and goes, "Hey, I just saw you in Snow Bride. Was that you?" And I'm like, yeah, that was me.
That's great.
Anyway, it's a lot of fun. And the hosting of the film festivals, I love doing that. It keeps my motivational speaking strong as well when I host those festivals. I've been doing that for over 10 years. And there's about 4 different festivals that I pretty regularly host. And of course, it's been quiet for a year. But the producer loves having me host them because I get them motivated. I kind of twist, as the host of that, I twist it into like a motivational. I call them celebrities. These are people, some of them are struggling, and maybe it's the first film that they ever came out with. And sometimes they truly are celebrities. Like I met Tippi Hedren at one of them. There's Lee Merriweather, so different people that are famous that are there, but then there are many people who this is their first time out, and I make them feel really good about their accomplishment, because it really is quite a feat to take an idea and turn it into a film, find the financing, get all the actors, get everything put together. And again, that's something that I enjoy doing. It helps me keep my motivational speaking strong, and I meet some incredible people as well.
That's awesome.
Wow, thank you, Stephen, so much for visiting with us today. As a final thought, can you give us ways, where can people find more about you and your books?
Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me on your show. The best place really is to go to my website, jungayeti.com. Junga, Junga, Yeti, YETI.com. In that website, you'll find all sorts of information about the books. We have some really neat products like t-shirts and stickers, and we're developing more products. We've got lesson plans. We have educators, a professor at a local college here that is a professor of early childhood development, and she is working on developing more lesson plans for us. And there's a section about the author, so they can read about me and some of my work as well at that website. So I appreciate, again, being on your show, and I would love if somebody has any questions, or if they want to book me, that's also the place to go, to the website, and you can ask me any questions about being available for your school, to help out your school as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stephen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fitzrock Podcast. The music you are hearing is Swim with Wild Musical Instruments by Your My Muse. Copyright 2019 and licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial License. Until next time, have a fantastic life.